welcome to the deep dive. Ready to dive into something pretty interesting?
Always.
Okay, so today we're looking at this psychological thing. It's called cognitive dissonance.
Ah, yes.
And, it's kind of weird when you think about it, right?
It is, yeah.
Like, why would anyone change what they think to match what they do?
Right, especially when it goes against everything they believe in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what this chapter, it's called Thoughts Out of Tune, is all about. So this is from that psychology textbook, you know the one?
Yeah, yeah.
And it basically digs into this really famous experiment by Festinger and Carlsmith.
Oh, the 1959 one.
Yep, that's the one. And let me tell you, the results are pretty mind-blowing. So get ready.
I'm intrigued already. It really makes you think, like, why would anyone do something that completely goes against everything they believe in?
Right.
And then on top of that, they try to convince themselves that they were right all along.
It's wild.
It is.
So to really get this, we got to understand, like, what cognitive dissonance even is.
Okay, so cognitive dissonance, it's basically that feeling of discomfort, like a mental
Okay.
When we have these two beliefs that clash, they just don't go together. Or when what we do totally contradicts what we believe.
Okay, so it's kind of like, I don't know, if I eat like a whole bag of chips, even though I'm trying to be healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know they're not good for me, but I still eat them.
Perfect example. See, you're feeling that mental discomfort because your actions, eating the chips, don't match up with what you believe about healthy eating.
Makes sense.
It's like trying to listen to two notes that clash. It just sounds wrong. And that's what motivates us to reduce that dissonance.
Reduce it how?
Well, sometimes we actually change our attitude.
Really?
Yeah, or our beliefs so they fit better with how we're acting.
So going back to the chips, does that mean, like, I'd convince myself chips aren't that bad?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you might.
No way.
Totally. Your mind's trying to smooth things over, right? Make you feel less icky about the whole thing. Maybe you'd start thinking, well, chips are made from potatoes. Those are vegetables, right?
Right.
Or you might be like, okay, gotta hit the gym extra hard tomorrow to burn this off.
Oh, yeah.
The point is, your brain's working overtime to make you feel okay about that contradiction between what you do and what you believe.
Wow. That's actually really insightful. I can see how this, like, pops up in so many situations.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this basic thing about us, about how our minds work,
Yeah.
Actually, Festinger, one of the big names in this whole cognitive dissonance thing,
Yeah.
he got his inspiration from a real event, the 1934 earthquake in India.
Oh, yeah, I read about that, and it seemed kind of odd to me. Like, all these people who weren't even close to the danger zone.
Right.
They were spreading all these crazy rumors about even worse earthquakes coming.
I know, right?
I would think that would make them more anxious, not less.
Well, that's exactly where cognitive dissonance comes in. Think about it. These folks were already scared, even though they weren't in immediate danger.
Right.
So to justify their fear, they started spreading these rumors about, like, impending doom, even though it was all, made up.
So basically their fear seemed more reasonable because they created this whole story around it.
Precisely. It's like they changed their beliefs about how dangerous it was to match how they were already feeling scared.
Wow.
And this whole real world thing, it really influenced Festinger's research,
Interesting.
Led him to that famous Festinger and Carlsmith experiment, where he tried to recreate this in the lab in a controlled way.
Right. So let's talk about that experiment. I know it involved, like, some really boring tasks.
Oh, yeah. Talk about boring.
Like, painfully boring.
Imagine you're stuck doing this super tedious stuff for an hour.
Oh, no.
Like emptying and refilling a tray with spools over and over, or turning pegs endlessly. Not exactly a fun afternoon, right?
Yeah. I can imagine. That sounds awful. But that was all on purpose, right?
Absolutely. It was all part of the plan. They had to make sure that everyone in the experiment started off with the same negative attitude about the tasks. That was their baseline.
Okay, so everyone's, like, totally bored out of their minds.
Exactly.
Then what?
Then things get interesting. They split everyone into 3 groups randomly. A control group, a $1 group, and a $20 group.
Okay.
After they finish the boring stuff, each person is told this cover story.
A cover story.
Like a fake reason for the experiment. They're told it's about how expectations, like what you think will happen, affects your performance.
Interesting.
And they're told that, like, some people were told beforehand that the tasks were fun and exciting.
Wait, so they're saying some people were told it was fun?
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Right.
Not a single person was told that. It was all part of the setup, this big deception.
Whoa. Sneaky. Okay, so what happens next?
So now they ask each person to, help out
How about how?
by telling the next participant, who is actually an actor working with the researchers, to tell them that the tasks were actually enjoyable and interesting.
So they're being asked to lie.
Exactly. And the amount they get paid for this lie is where things get really interesting. The control group. They're just asked to rate the tasks honestly, no lying. The $1 group gets offered a tiny amount to lie, and the $20 group gets a much bigger amount.
I see where this is going. So did everyone just lie? Like a ton, no matter how much they were getting paid?
That's what you'd think, right? But the results were totally unexpected. Remember, Festinger was looking at how people deal with that tension between their actual feelings, in this case, boredom, and their actions, lying about enjoying it.
Yeah, I get it. So I'm guessing the $20 group just lied easily because they were getting paid more.
You got it. They had this easy justification like, hey, I'm getting $20.
Makes sense.
They didn't feel much dissonance, so their attitude about the tasks didn't really budge. But the $1 group, they had a completely different experience.
I bet. $1 isn't exactly a great reason to lie about enjoying something so boring.
Exactly. The $1 group didn't have enough justification for lying.
Right.
So they felt way more dissonance, like that uncomfortable tension between what they did and what they actually thought.
So what did they do? Did they just refuse to lie?
They lied, but get this, to deal with all that dissonance they were feeling.
Yeah.
They actually started to change how they felt about the tasks. They convinced themselves that those mind-numbingly boring tasks were actually kind of fun.
Hold on. Are you serious?
Yeah.
So the people paid less to lie ended up liking the tasks more.
You heard that right. And this is what makes cognitive dissonance so powerful. We want to get rid of that mental discomfort so badly that we'll even twist how we see things to do it.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
But how does that even happen? Is there like a process for that attitude shift?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Researchers Cooper and Fazio, they figured out there are 4 main steps. First, that behavior that goes against your beliefs. The lying, in this case.
Right.
It has to lead to bad stuff, negative consequences.
So even though it was like a little white lie, those participants still felt bad about misleading someone.
Exactly. Second step is the person has to feel like it's their own fault, those bad consequences. They got to believe they chose to act that way.
Makes sense. If someone forces you to do something you disagree with, you don't feel as guilty.
Right.
But these participants, they felt like it was their choice to lie, which made them uncomfortable. What's next?
Well, third step is that uncomfortable feeling. Remember Festinger saw dissonance as this tension, And studies actually show that when people do things that clash with their beliefs, their body reacts. Like their heart rate might go up, they might sweat.
Whoa, so it's not just in your head. There's an actual physical response.
Yep. And finally, the last step is all about making the connection. The person has to realize that the yucky feeling they have is because of what they did that goes against their beliefs. Like in the experiment, they knew they lied and they knew they felt bad. This link made them even more desperate to make the dissonance go away.
Okay, so to recap, you've got the behavior leading to bad consequences. Then the person feels responsible, they feel that icky feeling, and then they realize the behavior is causing that.
Yeah, then got it.
Got it. And this helps explain why the $1 group changed their attitude so much, right? They felt guilty about lying, felt that tension, and knew the lie was the source of it. So they made themselves feel better by changing how they saw the tasks.
Exactly. It's really amazing when you think about it, how our minds work to keep everything consistent,
Totally. This is so interesting. So where do we go from here?
Well, that Festinger and Carlsmith study, that was just the beginning. There's a whole world of research on cognitive dissonance, looking at all the little details and how it works in everyday life. We'll get into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, wow. My brain is officially fried. That experiment is seriously a classic.
It really is.
But I'm wondering, is cognitive dissonance something that people still, research today? Or was this just a cool thing they found back then?
Oh, no, it's definitely not just a thing of the past.
Okay, good.
Cognitive dissonance is one of the most well-documented and accepted ideas in psychology. In fact, a lot of psychologists believe there are only 2 ways we change our opinions.
2 ways.
Persuasion, where other people are trying to get us to change our minds.
Right.
And cognitive dissonance, where we're the ones doing the changing.
So it's we've got this internal mechanism, right?
Yeah.
That's always trying to keep our beliefs and actions in line.
Exactly. And researchers are finding more and more evidence of it, it's playing out in everyday situations all the time.
So how does that like, show up in real life? I'm starting to think I've experienced cognitive dissonance way more than I realized.
Probably. One area of research that I find really interesting is what's called vicarious dissonance.
Vicarious dissonance.
Yeah. So this is when you see someone you like doing something that goes against your beliefs. And then, get this, your attitude starts to shift.
Wait, are you serious? So just watching someone else do something I disagree with can change my opinion?
Believe it or not, yeah.
That's wild.
There was this study with college students. They watched another student from their college give a speech, right?
Okay.
But the speech was in favor of something controversial, a tuition fee increase.
Oh, no one likes those.
Exactly. Most of the students were against it. But those who watched a fellow student arguing for it, well, they actually started to view the fee increase more favorably themselves.
That's so weird. So it's like our brains are trying to sync up with people we admire, even if it means changing what we originally believed.
Exactly. It's that need for consistency again. You know, in the study, the students felt a connection to the speaker because they were from the same college.
Makes sense.
So what the speaker did had more weight, created dissonance in the people watching, and then, boom, it influenced their attitudes.
This makes me think about, like, how we sometimes end up adopting the views of our friends or family,
Oh, totally.
even when we, like, disagreed at first.
Yeah, I think vicarious dissonance definitely plays a part in shaping our beliefs within those close groups, you know?
Wow. This is fascinating. It's like, I'm seeing cognitive dissonance everywhere now.
It's kind of everywhere once you start looking for it. Another classic example is smoking.
Oh, yeah, good one.
We all know smoking is, like, super bad for you.
Right.
But so many people still smoke, and that creates a ton of dissonance.
Yeah. Talk about actions and beliefs clashing.
Yeah.
How do smokers, like, handle that?
Well, instead of quitting, which would be the obvious way to resolve that, right?
Yeah.
They often try to, like, rationalize why they're still smoking, make themselves feel better about it.
So they're basically trying to reduce that cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. They'll say things like, oh, I only smoke a few a day.
Right, right.
Or I'll quit when I'm older.
Yeah.
It helps me relax, so it's worth the risk, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've heard all those excuses.
Classic rationalizations.
And these, like, little statements help them feel okay about smoking even though they know it's harmful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These rationalizations, some people call them self-exempting beliefs, are basically a way to downplay the conflict between what they're doing and what they know is true.
So they're almost, like, creating this, like, alternate reality where smoking isn't such a big deal.
Yeah, pretty much. They're adjusting their beliefs to fit their actions.
So we've seen how cognitive dissonance can lead to, like, some bad stuff, like continuing to smoke.
All right.
But are there any times when it can be a good thing?
Absolutely. One area where researchers have actually used cognitive dissonance for positive change is in changing risky sexual behavior.
Okay, interesting. How does that work?
Well, there was a study by psychologist Elliot Aronson, and he was trying to get college students to practice safe sex.
Oh, okay.
So he had these sexually active college students, and he asked them to make videos promoting condom use to prevent HIV.
That makes sense, but did just making the videos actually change their behavior?
So here's the cool part. After they made the videos, half of them were put into groups to, like, talk about why people their age don't always use condoms.
Interesting.
And they were encouraged to be really open about times when they hadn't used condoms.
So they were, like, forced to face their own hypocrisy.
Exactly.
That sounds like it would create some serious dissonance.
It totally did. By confronting the inconsistency between what they were saying in the videos and what they'd actually done in the past, they felt super uncomfortable.
And I'm guessing this discomfort led to them actually changing their behavior.
You got it. The students who had those open discussions about their own inconsistencies were way more likely to buy condoms after the study.
Wow, Rita.
Compared to those who just made the videos. And even more impressive, 3 months later, they were still using condoms more consistently.
So facing our hypocrisy, even though it's uncomfortable, can actually help us make better choices.
It's powerful stuff. It shows that cognitive dissonance, while it's often seen as negative, can be a real tool for positive change.
That's amazing.
By, like, strategically pointing out those gaps between what people believe and what they do, we can actually motivate them to make healthier choices.
So instead of trying to avoid dissonance, we can use it to our advantage.
Exactly. It's all about understanding how it works and then using that knowledge to make a positive difference, whether it's in ourselves or in others.
So as we kind of wrap up this part of our dive into cognitive dissonance,
Yeah.
what's the main thing you want our listener to take away from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we all have this drive, this deep need to keep our actions and beliefs in harmony. And when they clash, we get cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable tension.
Right. And to get rid of that discomfort, we might change our attitudes, our beliefs, or even our behaviors.
Exactly. It's a powerful force that shapes so much of what we do and how we think. We saw how people paid less to lie, ended up believing their lies, how seeing someone we like acting hypocritical can change our own views, and how facing our own hypocrisy can push us to make healthier choices.
This deep dive has been, seriously eye-opening.
It really has.
I feel like I'm seeing cognitive dissonance everywhere now.
It is everywhere. It affects pretty much everything,
Yeah.
Our choices, our relationships, how we work, even our politics. It's just part of being human.
So, knowing this, should we be, constantly second-guessing everything? Every choice we make, everything we believe?
I don't think it's about living in this constant state of doubt.
Okay, good.
It's more about being aware.
Aware.
Those moments when you feel that, little twinge of discomfort, that feeling when something just doesn't feel right?
Yeah.
That could be a sign that what you're doing and what you believe are out of sync, and that cognitive dissonance is, doing its thing.
Okay, so awareness is key. But then what? What do we do with that awareness? How do we actually deal with cognitive dissonance in a healthy way?
Well, the goal is to reduce that uncomfortable feeling, right?
Yeah.
And there are a few ways to do that. You can change your behavior to match your beliefs.
Okay.
You can change your beliefs to match your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can try to, rationalize it away.
So we got these different strategies to get that inner peace back.
Exactly. And which strategy we use kind of depends on the situation and how much those beliefs and actions matter to us,
Right, right.
If it's something small, like eating those chips, even though you're trying to be healthy, you might just be like, whatever, and move on.
Makes sense.
But if it's something big, like a core value or a major life decision, then you'll probably be more motivated to really change either your behavior or your belief to get rid of that dissonance.
It sounds like if we can recognize and understand cognitive dissonance,
Yeah.
we can have more control over our thoughts and actions.
Exactly. That's the power of understanding how your mind works. We can become more conscious, more intentional in our choices.
This makes me think about all those times I probably experienced cognitive dissonance without even knowing it.
Oh, we all have. It's a normal part of life. Think about a time when you made a choice that, totally went against your values. Or when you clung to a belief, even when there was, clear evidence against it. Those are perfect examples of cognitive dissonance at work.
Yeah, I can think of a few examples right now. It's not always fun to face those inconsistencies, but it seems like that's the first step to, growing and understanding ourselves better.
It is. It's about recognizing that we're all a work in progress, always changing and adapting. And sometimes that means facing our own, contradictions and making changes to what we believe and how we act.
This has been such an incredible deep dive into cognitive dissonance.
It really has.
I feel like I've learned so much about myself and how my mind works.
It's been great exploring this with you.
And to you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a new understanding of cognitive dissonance and how it might be shaping your thoughts and decisions.
Remember, next time you feel that little bit of discomfort when what you're doing doesn't match up with what you believe, just take a moment, pause, reflect, explore those inconsistencies. You might be surprised by what you learn about yourself and how you can use that knowledge to make choices that feel more authentic and fulfilling.
That's great advice. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cognitive dissonance. Until next time, stay curious.